Joining our panel here is Jimmy Gate, a gospel artist. Thank you for joining us this morning. Asante sana.
Thank you so much.
Good. A lot of our guests have already given their views on fame, the opportunities, the challenges, and I want you to also weigh in on that. Bearing in mind, you've done interviews where you've talked about the price of fame, what people don't see, that people love you today and criticize you tomorrow. Talk to us a little bit about that. Has your perspective still changed on the fickle nature of fame? And if I remember the interview that I watched, you're basically telling people, don't believe in fame. Because today they praise you, tomorrow they want the same ones who criticize you. Has that changed in 2020?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And the panel is great. I've been watching you guys, listening. All of you guys are amazing. Now, for me, of course, I've seen the two sides of the sword. You know, I've been at a place where things are amazing, and then there are times when I had this backlash. And I think a lot of people who, especially on keen on media, especially social media, might have, you know, crossed my name somewhere with memes and all that. Well, that's the past. But for me, I've learned so much around being in the limelight. Number one, people are not loyal to you. People are loyal to what they get from you.
That's very interesting.
Right? People will never, don't sit there thinking that I'm this big guy, I have the limelight and everybody's talking about me and I'm the thing. You're only the thing because people are getting something they're looking for from you.
There's some value you're offering them.
People are always looking out for what they want, and they will go to the person who's giving them what they want. So the moment you don't give out that, in most cases, they'll move on to the next person and get it from them.
So let me ask you, would you take all this back? Would you take seeing what has happened and the lessons that fame has taught you, would you take the fame back and live a normal life, or what would you do differently?
I mean, see, just like Mwakazi, once you're out there, you're out there. I mean, it doesn't matter where I go. People still recognize me despite. And here's the thing, you know, when people are talking to you on social media, they're just a representation of who they are, because people don't see you as you are. They see you as they are.
Would you do anything differently?
What I would do differently and what I have done differently now is having that self-awareness. I'll give you an example. When you're going home, you're driving home, right? You are focused to going to your destination. There are so many cars on the road. You know, some are turning left, right, some are fasting off, some are slow, but you follow your pace and you follow your path to go home. That is self-awareness. Life is a journey. The moment you know your destination point, what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go, how much you want to achieve, what you want to be remembered for, then you create a path for yourself. And that self-awareness is what makes all the difference in your life and how you deal with people. Because just like McKenna said, people will always see you in their opinions, in their perspectives.
From their lenses.
Wow, people will always see you in their opinions.
Exactly. So if you don't see yourself in your own perspective and stand for that, trust me, you're going to live a very miserable life in the limelight. Because today you hear this and then tomorrow you hear something different. And people will keep telling you different things based on how they see you, based on who they are. Not really about who you are. There are people who say, oh, Jimmy Gate is this. Sometimes people think I'm arrogant because I don't talk much. But what they don't know is Jimmy Gate is is introverted. I'm a very introverted person from way back. I am not a social person. I'm work oriented. I'm not social oriented. So I love, you know, my personal space. I love being on myself. Like I enjoy my own company. Like I would drive from here to Nakuru on my own and I'm just happy. That's who I am. But someone would think that maybe this guy is
he's not social.
You get. Yet when people meet me, they're like, oh my God, I didn't know that this guy is like this. So here's the thing. You have to know who you are, have that self-awareness, and set your own benchmark. And don't allow anybody to tell you, hey, why are you going to Thome? And yet, that's where you live. They want to give, you know, they want you to go where they're going, but...
Or where they think you should be staying.
Exactly. you need to have your own benchmark and follow that path irrespective of what people say.
Otherwise it sounds like you're going to have a problem. Let me interrupt you because Mad Max is really nodding.
And he's been nodding,
Jimmy Gate ameongea story ya social media. In your view, social media, a good thing or a bad thing for what you've been up to?
Social media na play both good na bad. Juu inanisaidia kumarket vitu zangu. Na bado hapo ndo unapata kuna wale mafans wenye wanakudis tu kutumia hiyo social media.
What's the worst thing ushaambiwa on social media?
The worst thing
that you can share on TV. Morning TV.
The worst thing ni kama tu msana kuomba collab, then unamwambia nyaje inapatane tubonge fiti. Msana unaama pengine umekata kureply text zake. So inakuwa nakurushia tu matusi hapo matusi.
Wacha nikuulize, for you, how you handling, I like what Jimmy Gate has said. For him, as a person, his personality is that he's an introvert, right? That's just who he is. But ile job anafanya, it forces you to have to be social, right? So Mad Max, for you, how do you balance yourself, right? Being who you are, but also having to be social? Because that's what your job requires of you.
So, hapo mi social media, mi utumia tu ku market stuff zangu. Then mi si msa kuchat na wasema kubonga tu vitu issues. Hizo issues ukikuwa na bonga jua hizo vitu zenye zikuhelp kwa job. Ndo inapatia wase chance ya kuku.
So mabazenga wakikuambia siku hizi Mad Max unajisikia, what do you tell them?
Mimi huambia tu ni job manze, ndo inaniweka hivyo. Si ati kujisikia juu bado tukipatana tunabonga tu fiti.
Kambua, before we went on the break, Mokazi was talking about investment, that it's you have to realize that this fame and this time that you have, it's a very small window, and it should be an investment not only for your career but you giving yourself and your nation something greater than just fame. But at that time, do you see it like that, or at that time are you clouded by this is just another job, I have a rent to pay at the end of the month, I have a family to provide for, etc.?
I think when I started, I was very unaware of it being an investment, and it was just, I was excited, I was on TV, I'm an artist, I'm doing all these things, but the more I've grown, the more I've become aware, that self-awareness that Jim is talking about, becoming aware of who I am and the legacy that I want to leave behind. And that has made me so conscious in what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and being fully aware that as you're saying, it's a small window. I don't know if it's forever open for as long as I'm alive, praise the Lord, but maybe it will not be. Maybe it will get to a place where I don't want to be in the limelight anymore. I would want that when I've taken a step aside, that people will remember that she was not just a pretty face we saw every Sunday morning.
Right.
She changed my life in this way or in that way. She impacted my life. So I'm very conscious now of the investment that is being made in my life and that I'm making in people's lives as well.
And I want to let our panelists know, if you have a burning point, feel free to jump in. We're just having an open discussion. Piera, did you prepare for this? Were you the kind of person who was able to say, this is where I want to be in the next 5-10 years, this is how I prepare for it? And depending on how you respond to that, have you thought about Piera post the limelight, and how do you prepare for that?
Life after fame.
if that is what you want.
Yeah. First, I'll make it clear that I like being myself. So before fame, after fame, I like being myself. I embrace myself, I embrace my failures, I embrace my successes, I embrace who I am. And I have learned that through my past years of being in the limelight and of the kind of work that I do, where I realized sometimes you cannot be yourself because that's not what people want you to be. But you can just embrace who you are deep down. Like, I mean, I think you asked a question to one of the panelists, and I wanted to jump in when you asked, are you on TV? Are you on TV like the same person, like you are at home?
Yes.
And I'm totally two different people. I'm gonna be very honest with you. The person who's at home and the person here, we are two different people.
Why? Is it because the job that you do requires you to do so?
Like, for example, when I go to the club, I have to be that DJ. And when I'm at home, I'm a totally different person. Even at home, what people call me is very different from what people call me in the club. And I've been able to put aside that I'll be the first person to yell at my daughter when she starts twerking to, you know, this kind of music.
Right.
But in the club, I'm not saying I twerk to it, but I'll just be there like, you know, yo. So it's been a very confusing part of my life, but I've been able to set them apart. You know, like.
What else have you had to sacrifice because of this fame?
At the moment, I am not able to perfectly date because everybody is like, okay, so who is Piera dating?
Wow.
So who is Piera's baby daddy?
Yes.
So who is Piera? You know, like I'm almost like, okay, maybe I should not be doing this.
And that's the thing we've all at some point in our lives seated here having to factor that in. It's not like any of us were married before we started these jobs. It's something that came when we were doing this job. So for you, your love life is something that you've had to.
Yeah, it's a struggle, to be honest.
Right.
Even
thank you for that honesty.
Just going out on a date, you would see it in the paper. I mean, the following day, like Piera was seen with so and so. I mean, I'll even comment on someone's post and like it's circled. Piera commented on Makazi's post.
Right.
You know, like I can't live a normal dating life, and I think that's one of the hardest thing I have to go through. And when you have to date someone and you have to explain to them like, I can't post you, we can't be seen in public, and they're like,
what is that?
Oh, nanificha vitu kwa ground, you know? You're just like, and then the next thing there you are.
Wow.
So it's
Wakazi, I'd love to hear from you. How, as you as a man, how did you handle that? How did you handle that? But also, what other sacrifices have you had to make that maybe even your own fans never even knew of?
Well, for me, I really give thanks to God because I started out from very low. In fact, it's really, that's why I really insist on, it's been a privilege. From Kibra to being on TV, for me, I am in wonder that God would pick me from the dust and set me up to sit with kings and queens in the realm of publicity. So for me, every moment was a moment of thank you, God. Wow, thank you. It's amazing. It's amazing. And people who have invested in me, whether it's Jimmy Gathu we worked with, whether it's Mutegi Njau, whether it's Mercy Oburu or Latifa Ngunjiri, and even appreciating, isn't it interesting that we're talking about being in the limelight and the ones who have created this opportunity are not here?
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about it. Mrs. Masharia,
yes.
Mr. Masharia, and all those managers. So for me, when I sit here and I realize, number one, I need to walk, and that's why, Gengit, my goodness, I love your humility so far, just the way you're speaking. And I hope every person who is in the limelight would treat every moment as though it's their first. You know, the first day you got this opportunity.
The way you treated it then.
Exactly. You don't get familiar with it. You don't get familiar with it. But the place of having mentors around you. Mentors are like your guards. Somebody after this show you can go to and he can tell you head on. Bro.
I mean, I hear you and I love the positivity, but you cannot deny that there are certain things you've had to sacrifice to get from Kibra to where you are.
Sacrifice. Sacrifice.
Really?
Every moment I have to work on myself. Every moment I have to work on myself. The sacrifice for me is beyond the work that I have. It springs from my faith. I know where God took me from, and I know whether I am up the mountain or down the valley, if there is one person I want to please is God. I have a family right now. I have a son, I have a daughter, and I always constantly pray, let me be conscious of the fact that this can be my final second on earth. And if I was to be presented and I have nothing to say, and they look at me, they'll say, our dad was real, Papa was real, my husband was real. That's from my wife. So I sacrifice a great deal. How I speak, what I expose my
with that
mouth
awareness
to.
sort of in mind.
Exactly. And when I do that, it safeguards my profession.
All right.
Okay.
You know, McKenna started a very interesting conversation, and I want to throw it on this side, and I want to involve both of them, but even Kambua, as you two as well, before you got married. How have you guys handled your love life in this in this digital age? You know, I like what McKenna said. You date someone, you don't put them online, they're saying it differently. So in this digital age that is also tied in with your fame, how do you handle that? Because there are young people who are watching, they want to be the next Jimmy Gate, they want to be the next host. And life happens. Life will continue happening. It's not that because you're famous, you will not stop to date. So how do you handle that? How do you handle your love life and in this day and age? I'll start with you, Jimmy.
First of all, you know, I'm not married, so my love life is still not out there in public. And as I said, I'm an introvert. So, and here's the thing: everybody has their own time zone. Self-awareness, like I said, is very important. When